Welcome inside Studio S. Typically for this program, I am the hairiest person one on screen, but today that honor is bestowed upon Tom Viola. Tom, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, I'm having a great day here, Dan. Finally, some sunlight in Vegas. We never get any sunshine, never get any great weather out here. It's notorious for the rain, and just enjoying the day, my friend.
It seems like a fantastic atmosphere. I'm going to give you your flowers. I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk a little shit here. Of course, the Eagles and Jets played in a game that was an absolute slop fest for those who are watching and may not know. Tom, big Jets fan. Obviously, I'm a 4-for-4 Philadelphia guy. Just an absolute slop fest. But you know what? There was some back and forth throughout the week. Eagles -6.5. I think you were on that. I think you had used that as an anchor in a lot of different teasers, if I remember correctly. But
I had it in a couple, not too much, but I had an Eagles Survivor entry too. I was fading the Jets hard, but I don't care. A win's a win, and a slop fest is just a Jets game at this point.
Well, that's always the debate, right? Like, to me and a lot of people that I know, the older they get, it's like, well, I kind of really care about my fantasy team, my bets more than I care about my actual team, but that doesn't sound to be the case.
No, I mean, it's a great emotional hedge. The Jets were down their top three corners. It was the right bet, and I can remove my heart and my emotion from my betting. And then, it didn't work out at the end of the day there, but I still got to enjoy a great Jets victory, and we're 3-3 going into the bye.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel? 3-3. You haven't had Aaron Rodgers. He apparently is Jesus with this all this walking going on with no crutches. Are you in the camp that you think he's going to come back?
I mean, it's possible. I'd say stranger things have happened, but they really haven't. But I will say, if he does come back, I have no choice at that point to accept that he was right. Like, clearly the darkness retreats, ayahuasca, and dolphin sex noise playlists are the answer. And modern medicine is just a phony.
Yeah. Big med school is going to come for him.
Yeah.
If he's suiting up in week 16. All right. No, I can't imagine it because it's not going to happen. That's all the Aaron Rodgers talk I'm allowing on the program today. Let's move on to our first discussion this week for our line movement program here today. And that is a game that's going to be going on tomorrow night. Typically, we would have Thursday night with the Whale Capper. We're actually not going to do it this week. We're pushing that to next week. So this is going to be our line movement chat about this game specifically. And we're talking about Jaguars and Saints. Indecision, Tom, around Trevor Lawrence's knee. If you were watching with us during the witching hour, we called it out live. We were like, in a 37-20 game, why is Trevor Lawrence in this football game right now? He gets sacked. He very clearly tweaked his knee, came up limp. He walked off the field with a little bit of a limp. And this number has sort of fluctuated quite a bit. The look-ahead line prior to Sunday's games at a few books, actually Jags -1, but it got as high as Saints -3 yesterday before news that Lawrence is trending in the right direction sort of came out. We've now seen the market get down to New Orleans -1 on Sport Trade. That main line has swung as well. Just today, actually, you had about an 18-minute window where something went wrong, something screwy happened, and we had New Orleans +3.5 before it swung to New Orleans -2.5. That's where it sits right now. The price has fluctuated between +106 and +102. Jacksonville right now +2.5 at -120. Considering all that stuff going on, and of course it's a Thursday night game, right? So there's no actual practice. All of the injury reporting is a guesstimate. Do you think this is where this thing is going to sit 24 hours from now?
I don't know. I think that this is going to be a game that moves on the late injury news of him playing or not. I mean, we already saw it move once when this game opened around New Orleans -1, and then it did get all the way to that 2.5, 3 range. And then it came right back down with the news that he's trending in the right direction. But I call shenanigans on that. A knee sprain, playing on the short game, even if he plays, is this going to be peak Trevor Lawrence? I don't think so. I took some of that Saints -1 simply on the play that I'm gambling that he's not going to play, or if he does play, that he's not going to be fully healthy here.
I like that play. Let's look real quickly and see if that's available. It looks like 2.5 is the lowest you can get other than going on the money line. The Saints money line -120 currently on Sport Trade. And if you do use Sport Trade, we actually have a great update coming. I think either today or tomorrow. So hopefully by the time this game kicks off, you'll be able to see it. But they call a 6-box in the biz. Right? Your main lines will have 6 boxes. We'll have very easily sortable updates to our spreads and totals as well. So it's going to make it a lot more easy to navigate the entire process. So those are the lines there. Yeah.
And for the record here, the unabated line right now is showing Sport Trade as the best on both sides of the market, actually, because I took some Saints -1 at -110, but the line says, because remember, that 1 to 2.5 range isn't nearly as big as 2.5 to 3. Getting Saints -2.5 at +108 over on Sport Trade, that's the best number you can get right now.
Injuries, of course, all assumed. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence, also missing Brandon Scherf potentially with an ankle injury. Walker Little, a starting tackle who missed last week against the Colts. He's out. He's on the shelf right now with a knee injury, estimated as a DNP. And the Saints, here's the interesting thing, Tom. The Saints have a million injuries. And this is not just a Thursday night football kind of thing. Jawan Johnson, Ryan Ramczyk, James Hurt, their starting guard, Demario Davis, all DNPs. Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Olave, Derek Carr, all limited. Now, like, Olave is going to play. Derek Carr, going to play. But I think it's obvious that Derek Carr kind of sucks. All right. And I'm not sitting here saying like, I can't wait. I hope Jameis doesn't play. I hope it's Derek Carr, or else that's going to change my opinion. I actually think just watching this Saints team, they're just not that good. Their defense is good. Their schedule has been a plus schedule in terms of difficulty, but I just don't think they're very good. So I hate to say this, but I'm sort of looking at a situation where I'm thinking Jags as a dog. I kind of like that play.
I mean, I'm worried about those O-line injuries. I'm worried about you have O-line injuries and a quarterback on a bum knee. That scares me a lot.
Well, CJ Beathard, the backup quarterback, former 49er for Jacksonville. But you look along the offensive line. Yes, the interior of the offensive line, right? Scherf, questionable. Walker Little, questionable. Cam Robinson, back. That offensive line has been really good since Cam Robinson has been back. So I think if those two guards go, I'm actually sort of inclined to go with the Jags here. I really am.
I mean, I could see it. Honestly, I took the Saints one on the logic of I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is going to play, and I don't want any part of the Jags if he's not. But other than that, there's so much injury uncertainty around this game. It might be one that's best to just sit out.
Moving on. The Goff fence, Jared Goff. Can you believe? I mean, gambling Twitter / gambling X is just a thorny place in general. There is actual content being produced right now that is suggesting that Jared Goff should be the MVP of the National Football League. Your thoughts?
I mean, there are worse bets that you can make.
Oh, come on.
Like, I don't know. I think what's he sitting around 20 to 1?
I'd have to look. I don't know.
I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 1. They need to make a big run, but they're 5-1. And they're 5-1 partially because they have a really fun offense. Yeah. Jared Goff's a big part of that offense. I'm excited to see what happens as they get Jameson Williams more involved. Like, now you're going to have him opposite Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's nasty.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it's not the worst long shot bet you can make. That's for sure.
Well, an interesting line as this weekend has played out. So this opened Ravens -2.5 at home against the Lions this upcoming weekend. Maybe this is like the public reacting to the overreaction to Detroit. That's now up to a full 3. Now, the injury report for Detroit, not good, specifically in their backfield. Jahmyr Gibbs, injured. David Montgomery, injured. My guy, Craig Reynolds, former camp counselor of Craig Reynolds, me right here. Wow. He's probably going to get the start. Yeah, he's a great dude. Jonah Jackson, fantastic offensive lineman, also injured. Brian Branch, questionable in the secondary. So you would think, okay, we're on our third running back. We have Jameson Williams back. We've got an offensive lineman banged up. Maybe it's time to start airing it out. I can't believe how good this Ravens defense is. Second in defensive points added. They faced the 5th most passing attempts and have allowed the 3rd fewest passing yards. They've allowed the 2nd fewest yards overall, but they've faced the 9th most plays. Unbelievable. So it's not a fluke. They're allowing only 4 yards per play, 2nd most sacks in the National Football League. They are a legitimately good defense. But I think they are a little inflated themselves. I like the Lions here. Okay. And I'm benefiting now that I'm getting a full 3 because of this line movement. I hope it continues to go. I hope people continue to say, I'm not into this Lions team. So I'm looking at the schedule for the Ravens. They beat Houston in CJ Stroud's first start. They beat an injured Joe Burrow and Cincinnati only by 3 points. Then they lose to the Colts after leading by a ton, only to come back and beat a Browns team that found out 90 minutes before kickoff that their quarterback wasn't playing. Browns go into the bye week, not motivated to play that game at all. Then they come out and they lose to the Steelers, who I don't think are very good. And then Ryan Tannehill gets knocked out with a severe ankle injury. They only beat Tennessee by 8. So the Ravens, yes, are 4-2. They're the leaders in their division. But to me, unimpressed. And as much as the public loves this Lions story, I do think it's pretty impressive. They beat Kansas City on the road, as we all know. Their only loss is an overtime loss to Seattle. And then they ripped off a 3-game domination streak between Atlanta, Green Bay, Carolina. Are those 3 teams good? No. But you know what good teams do? They kick the shit out of bad teams. That's what they do. And that's what the Lions have done. And then they go on the road. They beat Tampa, a team that has a plus defense. They win 20-6 in a game they kind of dominated. So the question here is, do you believe that the Ravens are good and the Lions are just playing above their heads? Or do you believe the Lions are actually that good? Having said that, a half-point line movement so far, as we're talking about it on Wednesday, where do you foresee this ending up?
I mean, this game's going to go back to 2.5 before it goes to 3.5. That's 3.5 feels like a bridge too far here, to quote a certain captain. I could see this game ending up at 3 and just kind of staying there, but I think that we'll get some buyback in on some Lions money at 3. And so I think it's gonna vacillate just between those two numbers. I mean, I don't know that I trust the Ravens.
I don't either.
The receivers don't like catching footballs. That's the problem.
There seems to be an aversion. So just to clean that up, so it's 3 everywhere with the exception of us at Sport Trade and Profit if you're in New Jersey as well. So we've got it Lions plus 2.5 at plus 102, and then Ravens minus 2.5 here. At minus 120. So the value is actually, depending on the price, I have to look at the prices elsewhere, but it seems as though the value would be with the full 3.
Yeah.
Again, I have to look at prices.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where I'd look at it and say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to have a bet on this game. If I like the Lions, now is probably the time to get in on them, because I don't see this number going anywhere other than 3, except down to 2.5 again. If you like the Ravens, if you're in New Jersey or Colorado, head on over to Sport Trade, grab them there while you can. Other than that, I'd wait for it to come back down to 2.5. I think we'll see some late money coming in on the 2.5 side, if anything.
Yeah. So again, available at 3 at most other spots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately for Anthony Richardson, his season is over. Jim Irsay, of course, the only other owner outside of Jerry Jones that would ever basically run his own ship on Twitter, has announced that he's going to get season-ending surgery, so he's out. So what we have, Tom, is basically a battle of the backups here this weekend between Gardner Minshew and maybe PJ Walker. Deshaun Watson just reported not practicing again today. So just like we all really wanted a matchup between these two. So movement elsewhere, right? Market movement elsewhere. Again, Sport Trade, typically our main lines stay the same. We adjust the pricing, which is really important to remember. We've seen a ton of fluctuation. So this number's been at 2.5 for Cleveland the entire week. It started at Cleveland minus 2.5 at minus 117. It then went to even money and then went to 104, then plus 108. And now it has come all the way back down. It is sitting at Cleveland minus 2.5 at minus 125. Colts plus 2.5 at plus 108. What are you seeing?
I mean, I'm looking at the market movement at some other places too. I'm seeing a lot of the same things. We had an opener of this game at 1.5, got up to 2, got up to 2.5, then up to 3. Now it's been brought back down to 2.5. Kind of the same thing that we're seeing with the Ravens game. I don't see this number's not getting to 3.5. I think that we're going to see more vacillation on that 2.5 and 3. As far as who I like the Browns here. I think that the 2.5 number is juicy enough. I don't know. I mean, I'm buying into the PJ Tucker experience right now, which doesn't feel good. And I love Gardner Minshew, but that offensive line for Indy has been suspect at best.
Yeah.
Minshew's struggling back there. it's not about what he can do. It's that this Browns defense is actually really good. I trust the Browns offense with PJ Tucker to be able to move the ball. Is it PJ Tucker or PJ Walker?
PJ Walker. PJ Tucker is a power forward for the Sixers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But PJ Walker.
Temple. First, hold on. Throw some respect on my guy's name. PJ Walker, all-time winningest quarterback at the Temple University. Back-to-back 10-win campaigns hasn't been done since World War II. All right.
Is that when you were in school?
That's not that. I'm not that old, so it's not that funny. It'll come for you too, my friend. All this gray shit's gonna come for you too. All right. Just well, if you could grow facial hair, it would. But when you can grow facial hair, then it'll come for you.
When you have a jawline like this, you don't hide it behind a beard.
We got somebody checking in on Twitter here. Harold Bolding. I hope I'm saying that right, Harold. He said he tagged one of his buddies here and said we were discussing your Jared Goff bet, meaning the MVP odds.
Hey.
And said they didn't actually give you credit for it for some reason, but it's discussed on Twitter. I don't know what that means. Apparently, if George, whoever George is, if he is the first person,
George, my boy.
Oh, has he been?
I didn't realize it was George's bet. Yeah, I'll shout out.
Is he the one who's been floating this? I hadn't seen this on the internet really, other than I've seen a bunch of people talking about it on their also talking head shows. I didn't know. Is this where this originated?
I mean, I don't know, but if they're saying it, then maybe.
Okay.
Shout out to George anyway.
Hey, shout out to George. George, if this is the first, if you're the first person to bring up Jared Goff for MVP, then hat tip to you, my friend.
Yeah.
Did not know, but we're all about attribution here as a former reporter. So make sure you're tagging George and all of your Goff MVP slips that you send his way. I am curious to know what odds you got if you've placed that bet. I am kind of curious.
But
yeah, sorry. Back to Colts Browns here. Yeah.
I think that I trust the Browns offense to be able to move the ball on the Colts defense more than I trust the Colts offense to be able to move the ball on the Browns defense here. That's what it kind of comes down to for me.
Finally, Mile High Cheese here. We're talking, of course, about what is true to be a stink fest, and that is Broncos and Packers. I have no idea about this game. The Packers have been without Aaron Jones since week 1. I don't know. Jordan Love has been terrible, so I'm not here to say that Aaron Jones is really moving this line or one way or the other. As an offense, they have just 12 plays of 20-plus yards. Jordan Love completing a league-worst 55% of his passes, 5 interceptions the last 2 games. So only against a team as bad as Denver could this Packers team be favored by 2.5 points. Right now, -2.5 at +106 for Green Bay. The Broncos +2.5 at -122. Now, that hasn't moved at all. I don't anticipate that moving at all. The Packers should be getting Aaron Jones back. Christian Watson played a full complement of snaps 2 weeks ago. The Packers coming off their bye, going up against statistically by far the worst NFL defense. I don't think this one's moving, considering we just talked about how Colts Browns has so many shifting variables and it's a stay away. This one seems to be pretty cut and dry. But are you staying away?
I mean, yeah. Why would I be on this game? It's got all of the excitement of a trip to the Stamp Museum built into it. Like,
some people would find that to be enthralling.
People, you say you're not that old, but then you're talking about enthralling trips to the Stamp Museum. All right, but I
didn't say I was going to be in line. But
why would you want to watch this game? I mean, and I get that you can bet on it without watching it, but like the market hasn't moved at all. No one is clearly no one is interested or finding a real edge on it. Aaron Jones might be back, but you're right. That's not going to move a line here. If anything, honestly, I don't know. Maybe you look at an under in this game and say both of these teams, yeah, the defenses aren't good, but the offenses aren't very good either. Maybe this is where the defenses step up and get something, but I'm not betting it. I have no real thoughts.
The under 44.5 right now is the total, +102 to the under. It's not a bet that I hate, honestly, thinking about it. Packers have a plus defensive secondary, some good pass rushers. I'm obviously talking off the top of my head without doing a ton of research. It's something I might consider. Game in Denver, a late Denver kick.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It is in Denver. Teams are going to get tired towards the end of the game. Maybe that slows play down a little bit. I don't know. That's the best that I got for you on that one, but I don't see a I certainly don't see an edge in the market here.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. You've been teasing this for some time. We waited to the end. We wanted to play it straight, but the fact of the matter is you're coming to us from your hot tub, your jacuzzi. What do you call it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the hot tub. I mean, the house in general is, of course, D-Gen house, our Mojo Dojo Casa house.
Great Barbie reference, by the way. Love that Barbie reference. Yeah.
I actually just got done getting my Halloween costume.
Are you Ken? Let me guess. Are you Ken?
Of course.
Are you all Ken?
What do you mean?
The whole house. Is the entire house going to be Ken?
Oh, no.
No, you blew that opportunity. Yeah, different Kens. Different Kens.
Yeah, could have been.
Can I tell you what I'm being for Halloween?
Oh, I want to know.
Ken.
The worst guy you know is going as Ken for Halloween. You know,
popular, and I can't wait to see somebody else, another dad walking around the neighborhood dressed as Ken, so I can immediately walk up to him and start singing "I'm Just Ken." It's gonna be amazing.
I waited too long to get the fur coat. I had to pay for that expedited shipping. It cost more than the coat itself.
Oh, you're going with that one. You're going with fur
I'm going with Mojo Dojo Casa House, Ken. Yeah, I got the headband, I got the gloves, the sunglasses, I got the whole 9 yards, man.
This is quite a divergence, but can I just say, like, maybe my favorite plot of any movie I've seen in several years is the plot of Barbie. And no spoilers. Have you seen it?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I loved it.
Yeah, I did too. The thought that they would go to the real world, discover the patriarchy, and then just bring it back to like a clean place and then immediately ruin it is so funny to me. And the fact that all the guys are morons and can't even.
I took it a completely different way than you did.
How are you taking it? That's the whole point of the movie.
No, it's not. The whole point of the movie is that neither sex can exist without the other, and that they need each other to balance each other out. When the whole world was just Barbie, then all of the Kens just didn't have purpose and they didn't have meaning in their lives outside of Barbie. And then when the Barbies leave and the Kens take over, it's just all the dudes. And like, first off, they nailed guys being dudes. It wasn't that they were like, these dudes are like, look at everyone's just like all the guys are just dumb. They nailed the little things about like, yeah, that's like when guys just have guy time. This is what we do. Like completely nailed it. And I love that. Like I didn't feel like the male characters were just there to be bashed upon. Like they had real depth and they had real like nuance to them, and you could relate. As a guy watching that movie, I could relate to them. And I loved that. But then, yeah, you see what happens where then the guys take over and everything just becomes Dudeville, and that doesn't work either. And at the end, that's when they find balance. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the movie, is that they need each other to coexist.
I love that take. I couldn't disagree more, but I love that take. I think we'll end it there. Tom, thank you so much, my friend. Good to hear from you. Good to see you finally in the jacuzzi. We'll get the crib style tour next time, perhaps. But we'll talk to you again soon.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you next week, Dan.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for watching, everybody.